This is a presentation by Group 7 on the Chapter 2 of the Economic Survey of 2019, which is titled as the policy of Homo sapiens, not Homo economicus, leveraging the behavioral economics of nudge. Because of the fact that the policies that we have to build should not be just for a rational economic man, but for all human beings. The chapter begins with a quote from Mahabharata, which is on the incident of Yaksh Yudhishthir Samvad of the time when Pandavas were on exile. Here Yudhishthir states that we cannot rely totally on rational thinking as it is without its bias. Upon seeing the role of behavior in the Indian context, we find that the social and religious norms play a dominant role here. Like we see, people are very ignorant to such posters which try to influence their behavior to maintain hygiene and cleanliness. And the irony here is that what we see, we ignore. So how should we actually tackle such a major concern? Here is the point where behavioral economics plays a major role. This can be done by adding some religious angle to it, like we see in these posters. Repeated reinforcement and reminders of successful past actions can help sustain the changed behavior. The public policies that are built by the government affect and influence our lives by motivating us to act in a socially desirable way, like driving safely, conserving natural resources, etc. Some policies leave the decision making on individuals only, while the others mandate us to act in a desired way. The public policy can be graded on a spectrum capturing how strongly they influence people. The policy of laissez-faire and mandate are on the extreme ends, while sandwiched between them are the policies of nudge and incentives. Now let us have a look at these policies one by one. The first one is the laissez-faire policy, which is a system where the government makes a policy and leaves the rest on people, either to follow it or not to follow. Like the Give It Up campaign, where it is totally an individual choice where a household wants to give up their gas subsidy or not. Next on the spectrum are the nudge policies that gently push people's behavior towards a desirable change even while preserving their liberty to choose, like the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan and the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao Abhiyan. It is followed by the incentivized policies that motivate and encourage people to do something provided with an incentive, like there are incentives on e-vehicle and heavy taxes on tobacco and alcohol. And the last one is the mandate policy, which forces the people to act in a socially desirable way, like a compulsory ban on alcohol, as we have seen in some of the Indian states in the recent past. So on the two extremes of the spectrum are the policies that either leave everything on individual choice or leave no room for individual choice. Between these extremes are the policies that incentivize good behavior and disincentivize bad behavior. In this chapter, some innovative global behavior change interventions have also been discussed, like the problem of tax compliance in UK, which was increased by nudging the people by sending them text messages on how their taxes make a difference. Here, we also see the intervention made in the agriculture sector in Africa, where the farmers procrastinated in buying the fertilizers timely. As a result of nudging the farmers by delivering the fertilizers to their homes, a 70% increase in the use of fertilizers was seen. It is important to note here that the nudge policies cannot and should not supplant every incentive-based and mandate-based policy. For example, a policy that merely nudges people to refrain from assaulting others will fail, just because of the fact that instead of a mere nudge, a slightly stronger push is required in this case. Here are the successful applications of behavioral insights in India. This figure shows the level of influence that these policies have created. We see that the Give It Up policy lies just in the borders of laissez-faire, while the ban on alcohol in some states lies still the mark of mandate. This chapter also discusses the case study of two of the very important missions launched by the central government. The first one being the Swachh Bharat mission and the second one the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao Abhiyan. So let us have a look at them one by one. The first one is the Swachh Bharat mission, which was launched on 2nd October 2014 to achieve universal sanitation coverage. It is the very first mission to emphasize on behavior change. Its impact within 5 years shows that household access to toilets has increased to nearly 100% in all states, as we can see in the graph below. The Swachh Bharat mission has achieved success in not only providing the toilets but also in ensuring that they are being used. The National Annual Rural Sanitation Survey of 2018-19 has verified that 93.1% of the rural households have access to toilets, out of which 96.5% of these households use it. The open defecation free status of 90.7% of villages was reconfirmed. Behavioral economics has played a major role in the success of Swachh Bharat mission. In this respect, the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao Abhiyan strongly complements Swachh Bharat mission in empowering women. The access to toilet and its usage can be significantly increased with the behavioral nudges that push female literacy rates up and discourage early marriage of girls. So we can see from the graph below that the states that have high female literacy rate and low percentage of early girl-child marriage have significantly higher percentage of access to toilets. Now let's discuss about the second case study, which is on the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao Abhiyan. This scheme was launched on 22nd January 2015 to address the issue of decline in the child sex ratio and related issues of empowerment of girls and women. This campaign was flagged from Panipat, Haryana, which had the worst child sex ratio at 834 among the Indian states as compared with the national average of 919. Since Panipat is famous for its 3 battles, this helped in making it as a symbol to fight against the socially ingrained bias against the girl child. This built a ground in making this campaign reach masses by nudging the people's behavior since they could relate with this scenario. This campaign was initially launched in 100 districts in 2014-15 and was later expanded to 61 additional districts in 2015-16. On an average, the sex ratio of 161 districts has improved from 909 in 2015-16 to 919 in 2018-19. This initiative was expanded to all the districts of the country on 8 March 2018 from Jhunjhunu, Rajasthan. The large states of Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh and Jharkhand had registered declining child sex ratios between the 2001 and 2011 censuses. Around the launch of Beti Bachao Beti Padhao Abhiyan in 2015-16, they had among the poorest sex ratios at birth. But by 2018-19, all of these states showed a reversal of the trend, registering an increase in sex ratio at birth between 2015-16 and 2018-19. Here we can see the effective use of social norms like the Selfie with Daughter initiative. This was the time when the celebration of the girl child quickly became the norm. As this initiative went viral, the hashtag Selfie with Daughter became hit worldwide. 2 elements enabled the success of this campaign. First, telling people what the norm is, and second, showcasing the thousands of other people who were acting in the line with that norm. This year in 2020, between 20th and 26th January, Beti Bachao Beti Padhao Week was celebrated. This event marked the 5th anniversary of this scheme. Simplifying messages, that is making the message clear, often results in a significant increase in response rates to communications. In particular, it's useful to identify how a complex goal can be broken down into simpler, easier actions, like we see in the name of these schemes that are slightly easier for the people to relate with. For example, the scheme like Namami Gange, which literally means I pray to Ganga. Poshan Abhiyan, where Poshan means holistic nutrition. Ujjwala, which means bright and clear. PM Mudra Yojana, where Mudra means currency and coins. Jan Dhan Yojana, where Jan Dhan implies money of the people. Ayushman Bharat, where Ayushman means being blessed with long life. There are 7 key principles of behavioral economics that must be applied to public policy in order to overcome the cognitive biases. Out of these 7 principles, the first 2 help in overcoming the anchoring bias, the third and the fourth one helps in overcoming the failure bias, the fifth one helps in overcoming the sunk cost bias, the sixth one helps in overcoming the loss aversion bias, and the seventh one helps in overcoming the flawed mental models and confirmation bias. Applying behavioral insights in existing schemes. The destiny of a nation is shaped by its citizens. In 2022, when the independent India turns 75, it is imagined to be a new India, where its citizens realize their full potential and contribute towards shaping the country's future. Mahatma Gandhi's 7 Social Sins, published in Young India on 22nd October 1925, provide deep insights into the role of social and political conditions shaping the human behavior. Each of these is a statement of principle that can be interpreted and utilized for nudging people towards desirable behavior. These are the 7 social sins that Mahatma Gandhi mentioned, which are politics without principle, wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, commerce without morality, science without humanity, and worship without sacrifice. Transforming gender equations from Beti Bachao Beti Padhao to Badlao, Beti Aapki Dhan Lakshmi or Vijay Lakshmi. Women in our scriptures are worshipped as the embodiment of Shakti and exhort. Therefore, this campaign can be labeled Badlao to represent the change towards gender equality. From Swachh and Ayushman Bharat to Sundar Bharat. Studies show that if people pre-commit to do something, they are very much likely to do it. Swachh Bharat Mission Swachhagrahis may use this strategy to make people pre-commit to sanitation goals. Moreover, people are more likely to sustain their new behavior if told about the tangible benefits associated to it. The architecture of behavioral economics can be applied in the entire health sector. People often make such decisions in healthcare that are not in their best interest, such as failing to enroll in health insurance to which they are entitled, or engaging in harmful behavior like smoking and drug abuse. The Give It Up campaign encouraged the households that were above the poverty line to surrender their LPG subsidies voluntarily. It was completely left on the individual choice. For every household that gives up their subsidy, a BPL household would receive a gas connection. Applying the concept of behavioral economics, the overall response to the campaign could be improved and more goals can be achieved. Improving tax compliance. This can be understood with the example of army personnel who get a lot of economic incentives from the government, but a large section joins the armed forces because serving in the armed forces is considered honorable. Imbibing honor among citizens must be done to enhance tax compliance. It was for the very first time in the budget speech of 2019 that the taxpayers were thanked. The chapter also mentions several ways to improve the tax compliance. The first one says that the top 10 taxpayers within a district can be highlighted regularly. The second one says that the high taxpayers should enjoy special privileges at airport and on roads and toll plaza, etc. The third one says that the highest taxpayers of a decade could be recognized by naming important buildings, schools or roads, etc. on their names. And again, we can see here that if we nudge the people with the related social and religious norms, it is very likely that the tax compliance will enhance. Given the importance of religion in Indian culture, the behavioral economics principles need to be combined with the spiritual or religious norms to reduce tax evasion and willful default in the country. And the chapter ends with the aspirational agenda for implementing behavioral change. The first one says that the proposal to set up a behavioral economics unit in the Niti Aayog must be immediately activated. The second one says that every program must go through a behavioral economics audit before getting implemented. And the third one says that the behavioral economics team can work with the state governments for various programs that are administered by them. Thank you.